Welcome, welcome. So, as you'll know, I've started recording, just so you know. This is Kate, Sophia, Tracy. I see Tracy and Sophia face to face, and Kate, I see you online. So Kate lives all the way in Bendigo. So I just thought I'd introduce you because you've been coming to this. So it's just nice to be able to put a name to a face and a destination. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay, so today I'm talking about limiting beliefs, and this is such a big topic. But I was just speaking to Kate about when you come to these sessions, like not overwhelming yourself with all the information, just thinking about the one thing that you've taken away from it. And even if you feel called to explore that further, to get curious with that further, because there's so much information in this. So in each masterclass, but there will be just this one little thing that might just really stand out for you. And that's the little takeaway to take home with you.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear, if you're open to, what is your understanding of limiting beliefs? If anyone wants to come in.
I can, if you want.
Go for it.
And you can hear me? I don't know. Technology, I still haven't got my head around this one. Things that you have been trained on, I don't know if that's the right word, things you've been trained to believe about yourself that stop you from doing the things that you could achieve.
Yeah,
from
great.
childhood. Or I realised I was sitting with a friend 2 days ago recording my music, and I'm like, I guess I'm quite good at it, but I have this belief. I've realised I was literally just sitting there going,
Oh,
that's a limiting belief. Even though it's like they're really cool songs, right? But somewhere inside, I don't believe people want to hear it, and so I don't even play it in public.
We missed what your limiting belief was. You kept us on the edge of our seats, and then it froze for a little bit. So I'd love to hear what it was.
That's so funny. I don't think people actually want to hear my music.
Okay.
What I have to say, and I think it's from my childhood of when everyone was like, "Stop playing your damn guitar!" Like, hate listening to it. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, because I'm like, why aren't I doing it? What is like? I'm good at it. I can like, yeah. There's just this massive blocker. So I'm thinking that's what it is, and that's I guess I would like to explore today.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's a really good example of a limiting belief. Yep. And it connects to your childhood as well. So really great. Thanks, Kate. I'm just going to mute you for a moment, if that's okay, just for recording purposes. Does anyone else want to come in with like their idea and even what you want to get out of it, which is great. Kate mentioned what she wanted to get out of it. Sophia.
I think it's also like, yeah, your conditioning, and a lot of it has to do with your childhood and what you were told, like what you were good at, what you weren't good at. It's created this belief system in your mind, which you believed, and then you lived your life that way.
Yes.
But yeah, I want to get out of this. Like, I just want to just keep breaking these limiting beliefs in my life.
Great. Yes.
So
yeah.
challenging.
It is. It's like, this is what the inner work is. It's like what therapy is. It's the most challenging thing you can do because there's so much discomfort in creating the new beliefs. And I also say that limiting beliefs are part of our protector. It's being, protected from being seen, from stepping into our full power and all those things. So it is part of our protector. Thanks, Sophia. I'm just going to mute you as well, if that's okay. Tracy, did you want? Oh, you just.
Yeah. My one that I've recognised recently really resonated with what you said in your example. I'm also from immigrant grandparents, and my dad also came over when he was 15, so he's from Poland. And that idea of that hardworking thing is so true. My dad worked 3 jobs. My mum worked full-time. There was 4 kids. So it is just instilled in us that to be successful or to earn anything or to show your value, you have to be a hard worker. And so I see it in my brothers and myself. We but we've built an identity around the fact that we are good, hard workers, and trying to unravel that is a really big thing for us as well. In that you can work smarter, not harder, and your worth as a person is not attached to your career. And so that's something that I know that I'm definitely trying to work on, is pulling back, because I will always overcompensate, thinking that I will get valued as a really good worker if I give up a lot of my free time and I do the extra. But that's to the detriment to myself. And generally, my worth is still seen as, as still the same. It's just that people will then go, well, I get more work done through sending it off to Tracy. So, there's that element there. If I can still meet that, the idea that I'm a good worker, but without having to do the hard part, the hard working part. So
Yeah.
I definitely. But then also, I'd love to see how, because I recognize that as a pattern, especially from family, but I'd love to know how that works across some of the other areas where I get stuck. So just, maybe seeing how I can focus that in some other areas where I've got blind spots.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Tracy. Such a good example. And yes, I can resonate with that one very deeply. I worked to the point of, like, when I was in the thick of working so hard, I worked with men doing fish surveys in arid Mildura, where it was 40-degree days, and I was just working, like bringing in these carp and doing all this hard masculine manly work. And now I look back at it and I think, what was I thinking? Like, what? Because it was instilled in me to work really hard. And I remember we would camp out and I'd just be so exhausted, and there was no possible way that I would be able to do that work for the rest of my life. Like, I knew, I was like, this physically is not aligned with my body.
Not sustainable.
Not sustainable. But just like, I got into it with the belief that you have to work hard and prove yourself to get to the top. And that means, like, whatever you got to do. So,
yeah.
Hard work ethic too. And I can see you, Kate, resonating with that as well. And I'm sure, Sophia, you resonate with it too. All righty. Okay, let's get started then. Thank you for bringing that in. If you've got any questions, again, just pop them in the comments or write them down for the end and I'll come to them. I really love the interaction as well. So we're just going through, I'm just going to keep it really simple as well, because sometimes we don't need to overcomplicate things. But the limiting beliefs, we've got limiting beliefs and we've also got core beliefs. Now, limiting beliefs are generally, we're more conscious of those. So it's the way we speak, we can identify these beliefs. It's things like, I have to, I'm poor, I should. So when we start to speak in a way, so like I should, it tends to be more like, it's kind of judging ourselves, like I should do this. I have to feels like I'm doing it without actually wanting to do it. So I'm doing it for someone else rather than I choose to. So anytime we start with that language and the absolute languages too, like they always leave me, this always happens. What happens with that is it's black and white thinking, as well as I think I've brought this in before with the reticular activation system. It's called RAS. Well, that's the shortened version of it. Think about when you buy a car and you see all these cars on the road, and that's because your focus is on the car that you bought. So you might have a black Mazda and you see all these black Mazdas, and it's not that there's more black Mazdas out there since you bought the car. It's that you've brought your focus in to this specific car. So now you're seeing more of them. Our brain filters out information so it can bring information in. And so when we speak, when we have language around things like I'm poor, I'm so focused on being poor, I can't see the opportunities around me to make money. I can't see the opportunities around me to build my wealth because I'm focused on the poor. So what I will do is I'll reinforce that limiting belief by being so focused on being poor that I will keep getting this evidence showing me how poor I am. So that's an example. And I have to is very, I find what I found with I have to, this language will come out when it's really difficult to set a boundary. So if you're around someone, or you might be someone yourself too, I've caught myself with this language as well, is I have to do that for them. That is a really good indicator of a boundary that you're scared to set and take charge of in that relationship. I have no choice. This is another one. I recently spoke to a friend and she said, I have no choice. And luckily she's friends with the therapist. I said, oh, you have no choice. Okay, I would check that out, what you just said. Do you have a choice and you're choosing to do this? Because if you have no choice, then you can't see the opportunities around you. So she probably wanted to unfriend me at that point. But what I like to do with that, because I have no choice is a really strong one, I find. It's another way of blocking out opportunities around, and it means that I feel like I have no support, no way of getting out of this. I feel so stuck that's why I use the language of I have no choice. So it's a really good signal to be like, okay, what's happening for you there? Where do you feel stuck? And where is maybe your scarcity mindset coming in? This always happens, as I said before, the absolutes. I can't spend money on myself. It feels selfish. So these are generally, I'm selfish if I spend money on myself. The limiting beliefs, like in your everyday life, when you speak, you will pick these limiting beliefs up. What's underneath a limiting belief generally is a core belief, and that goes deeper. So, for example, Kate, I hope you don't mind me using your example. The example of no one wants to hear me, right? That's a conscious limiting belief. No one wants to hear my songs. They don't want to hear me. They don't want to see me, or, whatever language you use around that. Underneath that, there would be a core belief, and that core belief could be, I'm not enough. It could be I don't belong in the singing industry. It could be I'm feeling powerless. I'm a bad person. It could be I'm not good enough. So the core beliefs are generally where we're functioning from, and they are often subconscious until you do the sort of processing work to get to that core belief. And they're our drivers. So they're the ones, when we don't meet that goal, they're the ones actually in charge. And the way you get to it is through the limiting belief, because you can start to explore, okay, I've got this belief here. It's holding me back. What is it really? Like, what is it telling me? And so in therapy, this is actually what we do, is we process things down to the place of that core, where we can get an understanding of, oh, there's a part of me that feels like I'm not good enough. And then your body and your mind and your sensory system will give us information, whether it's an image, whether it's a sound, a movement, and we then start to explore that information to be able to process whatever emotions are there. So that's generally how it works. This is how I see it. Limiting beliefs and core beliefs, if you Google it, you'll come up with all sorts of ideas around it. Byron Katie's work, she has a website. So if you're Byron Katie, The Work, it's called, and she's got like a free resources on there, and it has all this stuff around limiting beliefs and statements. So if you're thinking of like looking into this stuff, Byron Katie, The Work is a really good resource. The only thing that she's missing is the processing part. Byron Katie does work around reframing. The thing with reframing, it's so important to get all the information. So if I'm feeling sad, a reframe like, oh, there's a part of me that feels sad today, and I know that there's a part of me that can go for a walk and feel happier if I do that. That's not going to feel good if I'm not being seen and heard in my sadness. So Byron Katie's work is really good after you've processed that experience, and then you can look at her work around our default thinking and limiting beliefs. Okay, so I was talking about subconscious and subconscious. So suppression sometimes we say, if I'm just going to go with your example, Kate. Say if you just were like, yep, no one wants to hear my music. So suppression of that would mean that you just say you believe it, rationalize it, and be like, see, like they weren't even listening. You create evidence around it. You would make excuses up for not going to play. So you would suppress your expression in music, and you would know that you're doing it. So it's pretty conscious. Repression, on the other hand, comes more from a place of we're not even aware that that belief is controlling our life. We're not even aware that it's there when we're making decisions. Sometimes only other people can see it. And the interesting thing about this is, though, when we get feedback from people, it's so important to discern who to get feedback from, because if someone hasn't done the work, the inner work, they could be giving you feedback from their own projections of their own limiting beliefs. So that's one thing. So this is why, like, a therapist has that more of that, like, we're not coming in without our own belief systems. We want to hear yours and your experience and to understand it from there. But sometimes we can get feedback from people that have done the work and that are closest to us, and they can see parts or things that we're doing. They can see our fears, but we may not be able to. This is a really interesting one that I've explored in the last year. Repression has been something that's really opened up for me around how it works. And what I've noticed is that people will put themselves in environments where others will feed their repression. What does that mean? If I'm in a fantasy of who I think I am only going to be friends with people who give me feedback to tell me that's who I am. So if I've got a core belief that I'm bad or I'm not a nice person, and I don't want to see that because there's shame, I have to feel my shame to go, or I would need to feel my shame to go into that core belief. I'm avoiding my shame. So what I do is I'll surround myself with people that feed into me being a good person. So that's the fantasy. Whereas there might be people that you hurt along the way, that you're mean to, that you ghost, that you treat poorly, and you just sort of run away from them. The flight response comes from them because you're not willing to see yourself fully. So that's where in that repression space, we can get that self-fulfilling prophecy where we never actually explore that repressed part. The way to explore it is it will come out in health symptoms. It will come out in patterns in our life. It will come out in feedback from others. And whether we're willing to go to those depths or not will be if we see those repressed parts. And generally it's because we're willing to see that, we're willing to explore, like Kate, you're willing to explore this belief so you can continue to express yourself and sing. So as you're exploring, you might find other things come up, and then you start to peel back the layers. Okay, so a question you can ask yourself are like, what are the rules you live by? So when we're living by rules, it's really black and white thinking. And generally, if we're trying to meet a goal, we'll need to shift these rules or become more flexible with the uncertainty in life, because these rules are the very reason we're probably not meeting that goal in the first place. So part of therapy is like a different perspective. A different perspective brings in a different way of thinking and sort of living as well. Whereas if I have these rules where I'm like, okay, I'm not ever going to move from my house because I love my house. What if something, an amazing opportunity arises and you need to move? If you're living by this rule around, I cannot leave my house, I have to stay, then opportunities around you will probably come and go without you even seeing them because of the reticular activation system, the RAS. So when we're living by hardcore rules, generally they're attached to feeling, we want to feel comfortable, we want to stay in our comfort zone, and humans are reluctant to sort of move into discomfort. So we will say, we'll have these statements that are real black and white rules. checking those rules can really support you to be like, okay, how can I move somewhere else and be okay with that? What sort of things do I need to put in place to support me during that move? You explore those rules. Okay, so a little thing that you can do, a little exercise, which when you do this, you can actually start to subconsciously tap into what rules you have around this. So when I say the word relationship, what association comes up for you around that? Like, so what first words come up? So if I say relationship, the first word that comes up is a really good indicator of exploring your limiting beliefs around that sort of stuff, or your beliefs. It might be relationship, love comes up. Fantastic. So that's not a limiting belief, that's a belief. So there's a difference. We can have beliefs that support our goal and beliefs that don't. So when you think of the word money, what 5 words come up with money? Like for me just then, the word hard came up, which is interesting, right? So like that association, like making money is hard. So we kind of, even that, though I'm doing lots of work on it and I've been in the personal development world, there's still a subconscious limiting belief there that I'm working with, because they don't always just go away. We tend to work with them and create new ones. So we need to build the evidence around that. So when you say the word career, what first words come up for that? Health. What 5 words come up for health? So just whatever pops into your mind. Family, and then love. So you can do this even when you're just journaling. You can just go through these and just notice when you say each one, what 5 words pop up naturally in your mind. Okay, so what I'm going to speak into, you can always come back and watch this again, because there's a lot of words. There's often we have this way of thinking around our circumstances, and this is filtered through our past experiences, our belief systems, our values, just all the things that have influenced us growing up. One way to start to navigate our goals is start to think about circumstance. What's the facts about my circumstance? So then when you start to bring belief systems and ways of thinking in, you can compare it to the fact. Is that true? So I'm going to use your example again, Kate. I'm a singer and songwriter. So that's fact, right? A singer and songwriter. People don't want to listen to me. Is that fact? No, that's a assumption, right? So we've got the fact, and the assumption is people don't want to listen to me. How does that make me feel in my body? It makes me want to run away. I'm just guessing here, by the way. This is just an example. The thought is people don't want to listen to my music. And so the feeling I get from that is I feel tense. Maybe I feel sad. Maybe I feel anxiety or worry. So just noticing how I feel about that. And the action I take is I don't go singing. I don't sing. I don't write my songs. So I don't show up. I don't go to play at venues, that sort of thing. And the result is I don't get further in my singing career. So what you want to do is you want to see this, start to look at this from your sense. So the circumstance, we know what the facts are. We've got to be willing to challenge that belief system. So your body response, you can start to be in charge of this, the sense part, noticing what part of the ladder, the autonomic ladder that you're in with the circumstance. And then you can start to create a different state for yourself. And that's when you create the new thinking process, so the reframe, which then stepping into a different emotion. So if the reframe, often with a reframe or affirmation, we need to feel it. That's the key. Because if I say I'm grateful for and I'm not feeling grateful, it's just not going to work. So we've got to feel it. So whatever state you can get into. So Kate, I would be interested in what you could do that could get you into a state where people are enjoying, like what would you do knowing people are going to enjoy your music? You could do a visualization. You could go, okay, I'm going to feel into this. I'm going to play. While I'm playing, I'm going to visualize people dancing, singing along, enjoying it. You know, you can do a meditation around that, like a visual thing. You can do some journaling around it. So really get into that state of what you would like people to feel and how you would feel when you watch them singing and having fun and dancing to your music. So that's the sort of thing that you want to do. And then create that feeling state. So then the action will be, all right, I'm feeling more confident. So say the feeling is I feel confident now. I'm going to take action and then I'll get a different result. So that's the concept around changing your limiting beliefs and shifting it so you can meet your goals. So lastly, identify the beliefs and how they impact your growth. So we've got to really want to shift that. We want to create new beliefs. Choose whether you want to create new beliefs. Have a goal you're working towards. Often, if we don't have a goal we're working towards, it's hard to find motivation to create new beliefs. So having a goal can be really motivating for us to go, okay, this is my goal. In order for me to get to my goal, I really want to create new beliefs and create new evidence around that new belief. So understanding how the protector is coming in and really nurturing that, you know, vulnerable part of us and supporting your needs along the way. So we don't want to bulldoze through the limiting beliefs, and then build evidence and reflect on your growth since you started. So that's really important, is to reflect and build evidence towards the new belief, because the old one is going to want to come in every now and then when we're feeling stressed, and it will want to take over and be like, see, I told you, at any sort of challenge, it will come in. So it's important that we reflect and build on that. Okay. That is about it. I think that's plenty of information for everyone. Have you got any questions around that? Any insights? Yeah, go for it, Sophia. I'll unmute. Let's see. Here we go.
Now that you've unmuted me, I've forgotten what I was going to say.
Okay.
What was it? No. You have to come back to me.
Come in when you're ready. Come in when you're ready.
Yeah.
Kate, did that support your limiting belief? Did you get any insights from that?
Okay, there I am. Hello?
Yes.
Yep. It's very interesting. I feel like I need that written down and have to challenge it daily. It's like, yeah. Yes. I think there's lots of limiting beliefs. Yeah. I don't know. It feels like a lot, but it's good because there's like something that you can do about it.
Yes. And
So I think,
yeah.
I think I need to work on goal setting, I guess. I mean, we've been working on other stuff. I've always got goals, you know.
Yeah.
But I do. I was like, it's so nice. Like this friend, like, yeah, I like really can write cool songs, but they are a bit melancholy. That's why I was like, it's a bit hard to imagine people dancing around and like,
Maybe they're crying, Kate. Maybe they're crying. I don't know.
I used to like to write songs that people could feel, that people can feel, because a lot of people aren't good at expressing their stuff. So it's kind of like I'm writing it for everybody to say what they can't say, kind of thing. But anyway, it's just so interesting because, like, yeah, I really I have these gifts, but I can't seem to do them. Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Because of all these things. And I think the more you get down into a bit of a wormhole of, I don't know what you want to call it, self-pity or what, I don't know, but just working on everything, you're sort of like, that can wait. But also, when I push myself, sometimes a part of me pushes myself when I'm not ready, and that can be really too much as well. So that's another interesting thing I think that can happen to me, possibly. I'm like forcing myself into it, I guess, without doing the work around it. I don't know. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
That
Like,
makes
no,
complete-
you have a gift. You've got to go and do it. You're going to do it, and then you scare the crap out of yourself because you've gone and done something that's like,
Yeah.
too much. Like,
That's that's the bulldozing effect that I talk about, and that's why the like bringing in the protector is so important. Because
okay.
often we can have like little stepping stones towards the thing that we want, or we can ask for support, or maybe we just need to complete something before we get to that other part.
Yeah, and I think I overwhelm myself, and then it's like, yeah, it was like it's all relevant, and it's the same with that hard working thing you're talking about. I'm like, oh yes. I'm like, wow, I got so many of them, and so now I'm kind of like, is that a limiting belief? Is that like, what am I doing there? Like, why am I doing that? So I feel a little bit paralyzed sometimes, and then the moving as well. That's another one I've got to work on at the moment, like moving house. Yeah. And
So
then what's a limiting belief and what is actually knowing your own behavior? Like, if you know what I mean, sometimes. Like, I'm working through realizing that I have issues about moving house and which parts are a limiting belief and which parts are actually like an issue that I need to like look at, like that like I might need help with or something like that.
So, and this is where the choice comes in around, do I want to keep that, or is it holding me back, and knowing what the goal is, because there's ones that we will have that we probably don't want to look at yet, or maybe we don't want to look at at all, and that's okay, because it's your choice to go whether I want to change that, or I want to create new ones, or I don't. I often think though, as you shift and create new ones, you're probably not having to look at every minute little thing along the way. What happens is the flow-on effect to your confidence and your life, and the things that you learn creating new ones in this area will probably have a flow-on effect to the other areas, like where it will have a flow-on effect to relationships, to, you know, to whatever that is. And that's the good thing about the inner work. You don't have to like sort of write them all down and get overwhelmed or anything. It's just like one step.
I take it really seriously, and then I'll like, I'll get all the limiting beliefs up there and then overwhelm myself with that,
And so what could be underneath that, right? And this is where we're going to a core belief.
Is that I'm not good enough, or I have to be perfect.
That's it, right? If I don't do all this, I'm a bad person. Like, I've got to get
I'm not trying hard enough.
Yeah,
I'm not trying hard enough to be like a good person or something like that.
Yeah, so it's looking.
If I get it wrong, I'm not a good person because I should have figured that out by now or something. I don't know. There's lots of them. It's a minefield of. Exhausting being me. No.
It can feel that way, but we'll definitely explore that. Okay.
Well, it makes me feel more positive that there's lots to look at, but it's good that there's ways you can work with it.
Yep. Great. Sophia, did you remember what?
Kind of. I was just going to say that was great. Thank you. But for me, it all feels like quite overwhelming, because I feel like there's like in my life, I feel like I'm run by limiting beliefs, and it's like the limiting beliefs are here, and the drive to want to change those limiting beliefs are like this far apart, and it's like all this in between stuff, and it's like super overwhelming. And sometimes you get kind of on board with it, and other times you fall off, and it's like, I guess there's like core beliefs under it that just give up, it's easier, or like you're not going to stuck in like those kind of limiting beliefs.
Yes, that's such a good point. If we've got limiting beliefs like that, it makes it even harder to try to work towards a goal, which is why I connect the nervous system in, because those limiting beliefs, what's the point? You're never going to get it right. You'll probably fail anyway, are generally in the shutdown. So it's when our nervous system feels, like you said, overwhelmed by it all. And so then it goes, all right, I'm going to give you these thought processes because you're feeling overwhelmed. And I'm actually trying to protect you from trying to go, because there's something there that we need to have a look at, like something there to be seen, to be heard. And so this is why, like in the coaching industry, it can also upset me when people do shame-based coaching, because they're like, well, that's just a limiting belief. The important thing is actually it's attached to your nervous system. So if it's attached to your nervous system, that means that you physiologically are having a response to doing that thing to get you closer to that goal. So by reframing, that's not going to help anyone. What we need to do is meet the nervous system where it's at, and the inner vulnerability that's happening as well, the fear that's coming up, the overwhelm. There's overwhelm coming in because there's some sort of fear there, and so it wants to be heard and seen.
Yeah, there's usually.
Yeah. So
What was that, Sophia?
I was saying it's really challenging to do by yourself.
Yes.
Like I'm one of those people that needs like a step-by-step kind of guide. Yeah. And it's like, where do you start? What limiting belief do you start with? Because there's so, so bloody many of them.
What I like to start with is whatever's live for you in this moment, in this week. What you're working towards. What's the main one that stands out? That's probably what I would work with. And you're right, it's hard to do it on our own, especially if we're feeling overwhelmed, because that part of our brain that can reflect and is, wants to explore and be curious is actually shutting down. And that's why having someone with a calm nervous system, which is your therapist, that's what you want from your therapist, is someone who's grounded to meet you and bring you back up the ladder so you can start feeling into and processing those things. That's why I do relational therapy, because both of our nervous systems come together, come to regulate. Sometimes, we get dysregulated, and that's okay. But to regulate, to be able to think clearer, to then process and do the work. As humans, it's totally biological and normal to need another human to regulate.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we want to be able to regulate on our own, but depending on your upbringing, were you taught to regulate on your own in a healthy way? Were you taught to regulate with another person in a healthy way? So that's why relational therapy comes in that space. So
patience, I guess.
Patience, yes, yeah, and being kind to yourself, and knowing that there's no perfect, there's no I have to get this, I have to be a better person. Like, if we can just even put those aside, and it's just about how can I take care of myself, because that's going to have a flow-on effect to everyone around me. I don't need to be a certain way for other people. I just need to support myself right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Kate, what were you going to say when you, sorry,
I've forgotten now.
Tracy, did you have anything that you wanted to bring in?
Yeah, heaps. I wrote pretty much everything down like crazy. I think there's a couple points too. I think that's a really good point that you were just saying then. I have to keep reminding myself that even though it feels like there's a lot, the fact that I'm even doing this process is helping, the generational breakage of, patterns and what it's doing for my kids, or if it's not for your kids, it's for your family or for your friends that are around you that are seeing it. So I keep reminding myself that, even just having awareness of this and doing these things is work in itself. So, you're already a step ahead. And one of the things that was getting me a lot was I feel like I've done so much work, but I keep getting stuck. And as you were sort of saying stuff, I was really coming through. It was like, oh my God, I've got I have such limiting beliefs about, you know, I dropped out of uni. So then, of course, I wasn't, you know, an expert in my field. And then, you know, I have this limiting belief around the fact that I people please because otherwise I'm not going to be liked. And, you know, there was all these things that were dropping in. And so I really liked what I got out of this as my takeaway is that when I meet you next, I really want to go through those, the rules you said around the relationship, money, career, health, family, love, and looks in my body I've added as well, because that's a big one for me too. And do that. What are those first 5 word associations? And I thought this is a really good way for me to start. I'll do my first 5 word associations around those things. And then the words that come out of that, I'll look to see if there's any consistencies around those core beliefs, and then maybe do that as one sort of graph, and then the bottom look at what matches up around core beliefs and what connects. And then I feel like you can pick one, you know, as Sophie was saying, it's so overwhelming, like maybe just to pick one of those core beliefs that can hit a couple of limiting beliefs, and then try and maybe work on that one first to see what I can then impact into those others. So I found it really useful in just helping for me to get in my head how I can start looking at things, because I was the same. Like as soon as I was going through it, I was finding so many things were coming up, and then it does get overwhelming. So I feel like I'm just going to sort of structure it like that and see, because I'm such a structured person, like I need to have like a solution around it. So I was like, so that's what I feel like I'm going to do for our next meeting, and then bring that, and then we can sort of work and see what comes out of that. But I really loved it. So thank you. It's good steps.
I love that. I love your little structure and how you saw that. That's really cool. And just so you know, like what I wanted to bring in too, because some of us who lean more towards anxious attachment, we can be in this forever trying to fix ourselves. And the thing around that is what happens is we take on all the responsibility of a situation. And so what's really important is that we give back half, like at least half, minimum half. And also see that sometimes uncovering a core belief can actually support us to see how we are taking on a problem, or we are taking on blame when we really don't need to be. And so that's something that for myself personally, as someone that leans more anxious, I used to look at people in authority and see them as people who were giving me feedback as like everything. So if they gave me feedback that was sometimes a projection of their own challenges, their own wounding, and it made me feel like really bad about myself, I would take it all on because I'm like, give me the feedback. I want the feedback. Like, I really want to be a better person. But what that was, the belief there was like, I'm not valuable, I'm not good enough, or I'm not a good person. So then I've got to make sure I need to make sure I make people happy. What I realized as I've come through this process is that sometimes it's their projection. And the only way that I was able to get to that is by processing this stuff. And so now when that happens, I no longer go into a shame spiral because I know what's theirs and what's mine. So this is actually can be the real incredible takeaway from doing this work. So I know it feels overwhelming at first, but once you get to this point where you can really not take things personally and see what's someone else's and what's your own, it saves you a lot of dysregulation from happening. Like, so there's times where you would usually go into a spiral where you're like, that's interesting. I saw that so clearly then. Whereas before, I wouldn't see it clearly. I would go into a confused state. I'd feel shame and guilt. And then I would change my way to pretty much fawn over the other person. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that in as like, that's a benefit of doing this work. Okay.
That what was I going to say?
Yeah.
Oh, that all sounds excellent.
Yeah.
Can we fast forward?
It's like Fawning is like my middle name, which I didn't know. It's like I think everything's my fault. If someone's not happy, it's my fault, and I had to do something.
Yeah.
I had to do something. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, like I've done something wrong. if someone's unhappy, yeah, it's not like I just can't. Yeah, it's just like, and then then you get you get triggered, and then you're like, what? Like even if
Me too,
they
Kate.
don't even think that they've done, like, yeah, it's just fascinating.
Sophia's saying do you saying you resonate with Kate on that? Yeah.
But so
On a
weird.
daily basis.
And but you don't. So if you're with the wrong people, they can kind of like, I'm thinking my family can kind of really work that. But yeah, or that's why I think like with work, I struggle with work. Like I have random work now because I really struggled in workplaces. I killed myself for people because I like, I can relate to all the taking feedback, or like what I was doing. It's just fascinating to reflect now on how hard I would work just to try and get things right. Because anyway.
So one of my my core beliefs was I'm not valuable. And so the way that it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy for me. So I would go into jobs, so I was in enviroscience, I'd go into jobs that were not naturally what I was good at or my zone of genius. And I would continue to come up against not being valued, but I would put myself in environments where it would reaffirm the belief that I'm not valuable. So they didn't see my innate strengths because they didn't value it in their organization, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
So
like I just look, like trying to be a site supervisor, like I mean the ADHD thing, I was like, how on earth, and obviously stress and anxiety and everything, how on earth did I think that I was going to be able to do that? And like I don't even know how I did now, but like managing like 8 to 10 bathrooms and kitchens at once with like people that like, you had to handle feedback authority, like
and so that's why
and then
being careful what environments we put ourselves in.
Yes.
Then when I've shifted that and I've gone into now environments that do value me, it's a very different experience because I can see clearly when I'm being valued and when I'm not being valued. And that's the clarity. That's the clarity.
That's interesting. So if you actually choose the right, this self-fulfilling prophecy thing is so interesting, and it's like trying to grab onto when you do that is like, like you're kind of setting yourself up to fail, but you don't even know you're doing it. So it's like, it's just really interesting. I don't know. There's lots to learn, but it's like I'm getting somewhere. But
Alrighty. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I really love seeing your faces on here on a Monday. If you have any topics that you'd like covered, please message them through. I'll just keep going. If not, every Monday. And I will see you all. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen you all this week, am I? Maybe.
I think so, yes. Is it 2:30 from there? Yeah.
All righty. Have a good day, and I'll see you.
Thank you very much, Thelma.
Bye.
Thanks.